But this low table, in case you haven't guessed it, is a tiny, tiny fraction of the fossils we find everywhere here at the crater. Here at the crater especially. Probably the only other place in Arizona there's a greater collection of available fossils is probably the Grand Canyon. But the reason why the fossils are so common here is because of the impact. When the impact occurred, the Earth was of course compressed. But when the meteorite blew up and out, it carried the surrounding Earth up and over on top of itself. So the lowermost layers of Earth are now the uppermost layers of Earth. The uppermost layer is now the lowermost layer. Any rock within, say, 6 miles of this crater, in all directions, that's not red, including where you're standing, what was once beneath the red. It's called inverted strata. That's very typical of meteorite craters. Volcanoes don't do that. So all these fossils are now fully exposed and easy to find. In fact, you for 10 minutes in any one direction, you'll probably find a fossil. But these are all marine fossils. Sorry, folks, no T-Rex or Velociraptor, none of those guys. He's much older than them anyway. And the youngest fossil is this one right here. This is the most common. This is the red Moenkopi sandstone. The same stuff you see out there, the red. And this fossil is a crinoid. It's at least 240 million years old. That's the youngest. The oldest is a cephalopod. I think it's it right here. 260 million years old. But again, these are all exposed as a result of the impact. Any questions? Oh, my pride and joy was a giant ammonite, like a snail, 1.5 feet in diameter. It was sitting out here in the middle, and one night someone hopped the fence and stole it. My pride and joy. These are all small potatoes by comparison. Sit on down, folks.
Shell or something, the way it's shaped like that. It's like an ocean shell.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just talking to you.
Right, that size. Yep, still going.
I need to run over you.
No.
Indian artifacts. I'm joking, of course. That's the remains of an old wash press and a pot stove, and I think part of a bed frame, circa the 1940s. It was up here in this ruin, but they hauled it out as a curiosity. And to make a joke out of it, because some people actually do think they're ancient Indian artifacts. As if they spoke English back then. See that push to release? Chimneys always seem to survive ruination. Not quite sure why. Maybe it's their weight that makes them more stable. But in case you haven't guessed it, folks, this is the remains of the first, and I believe the only house ever built on the rim of the crater. It was built for Samuel Holsinger, the gentleman who found the meteorite inside. It was built for him because he was hired by the Beringers to be the foreman of the mining operation here. This is where Holsinger lived year-round. This is also the site for the original museum back in the 1940s. To give you an idea how much business they did back then, look behind you. That open space, that's the parking lot. Not too much business, obviously, but they've obviously made up for it since then. Anyway, when the Beringers leased the crater, again to Meteor Crater Enterprises, the main shareholder was, and I believe still is, the Bar T-Bar Ranch. They're the folks who own most of the land around the crater to this day. So this became available to the ranchers, to the cowboys, as an overnight stay. One night in the 1950s, a couple of them were staying here, and they had an accident. The ceiling caught on fire, and the roof was destroyed. But the wind did the rest. Winds have been measured regularly here on the rim in excess of 110 miles per hour. And so it's very little mortar holding this Moenkopi sandstone together. The main structure that did hold it together was, of course, the ceiling, using these heavy timbers and cable that were anchored to these concrete points over here. But none of that matters unless you have a ceiling to anchor in the first place. So once that was gone, it did not take long at all for the wind to knock down the rest. Again, it was built just for one person. Now you probably noticed on the way up here behind you what looks like a mine shaft. Next to that sign that's low to the ground. That, unfortunately, is not a mine shaft. That's just the remains of the old root cellar. It goes in 10, maybe 12 feet, then it's blocked off. At one time, they stored dynamite there as well as food, but not anymore, of course. That's all that is. Now, folks, until the early 1990s, you were allowed to walk inside the crater. And the trail you would have taken is this way, please. Not that you have any ideas. The large bush to my right, that is a fully mature juniper tree. I mentioned that earlier. That tree is at least 700 years old, by the way. That is the current trailhead. It comes towards us about 15 meters before it turns sharply to the right for another 20 to 25 meters, then turns again to the right before it starts to switch back or zigzag underneath Fisher Rock we're heading to next. I went down that trail for the first time about 3 years ago. It took me maybe 25 minutes to get down, almost an hour to get back up. But that is still the main trail to and from the floor of the crater. It's very primitive, but still doable. And believe me, folks, I'd love to take you down there. I'd love to take you around the crater, especially on a day like this. But my boss and our insurance agent, sometimes one and the same, says no. So sorry, folks, you're about 20 years too late. Any questions? Let me take it down to picture.